So what we're going to prove is we believe that there was an original perfect state of the earth, and Lucifer had some form of throne and dominion during that time, and when he rebelled, God destroyed everything.
Because the scriptures we're getting ready to read will back that up. I'm going to read from Ezekiel 28, and it's pretty lengthy, and I'm going to start at verse 13. Oh, well, verse 12 it says, "You were the seal of perfection, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty," because it says, "Thus saith the Lord God."
Well, he's describing.
Right. He's describing. He says, "You were in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone was your covering." And then it lists the stones: the sardius, the topaz, the diamond, the beryl, the onyx, the jasper, the sapphire, turquoise, the emerald with gold. It says, "The workmanship of your timbrels and pipes was prepared for you on the day you were created. You were the anointed cherub who covers. I established you. You were on the holy mountain of God. You walked back and forth in the midst of fiery stones. You were perfect in your ways from the day you were created, till iniquity was found in you. By the abundance of your trading, you became filled with violence within, and you sinned. Therefore I cast you as a profane thing out of the mountain of God, and I destroyed you, O covering cherub, from the midst of the fiery stones." And then it goes on to say, "Your heart was lifted up because of your beauty, and you corrupted your wisdom for the sake of your splendor. I cast you to the ground. I laid you before kings, that they might gaze at you. You defiled your sanctuaries by the multitude of your iniquities, by the iniquity of your trading. Therefore I brought fire from your midst. It devoured you. I turned you to ashes upon the earth. In the sight of all who saw you, all who knew you among the people are astonished at you. You have become a horror and shall be no more forever." And so this is talking about when Lucifer, he was on the mountain of God. He was in the Garden of Eden. He walked among these precious stones, and he was known for his music and his beauty. And because he allowed iniquity to come upon him and sin, God cast him out of the Garden of Eden. It says he cast him to the ground, and it says the people of the earth seen him. Well, if you go over to Isaiah 14, 12, he says, how you are fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning, how you are cut down to the ground. You who weaken the nations, for you have said in your heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will also sit on the mount of the congregation on the farthest sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. Yet you shall be brought down to Sheol, to the lowest depths of the pit.
And that right there shows that he had a throne and there were nations.
Yeah.
People will assume that is in the future, and I don't see that because he's talking about God's already brought him down. He's judged him once already.
Well, and he says he was on the mountain of God and he was in the Garden of Eden. And so,
But
what I'm saying is, it's an establishment on earth.
yes. Yeah, somehow he's established on earth and he has a throne.
Right.
So that shows you he has some form of dominion of something. You don't have a throne without some kind of authority over something.
Right.
You're overseeing something. You're doing something.
Right.
You have a throne.
Yeah, if I have a throne, it's just not going to be
something.
a chair in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
And I'm not.
Yeah,
that's
I don't
just
have a
chair
throne built at my house so I can sit on it with nobody.
Nobody to rule. Yeah.
Yeah.
The throne.
Somehow he's over something.
Right.
And he's brought down nations.
Right.
Well, and he's trying to do it again. But the point is, this is talking about when he fell. He fell.
Right.
Because he did these things already once.
Right. Yeah. Well, and it says that it talks about by the abundance of your trading, you became filled with violence within, and you sinned.
And that amazes me because it says he traded.
Right. Because if there was nations,
Satan ain't out here trading. I mean, I guess he could be using somebody to do some form of trading, but it's just
no. But if he's if he's on a throne and there's nations, there's trading within the nations.
But I used to think that was something that was going to happen later, but it confused me because I thought it's talking about when he fell, but yet it acts like it's something that's going to happen later to the nations. But if you understand that this earth is older than our creation, the creation of man in our state, well, it's only what, 5,000? Are we at 5,000 years?
Mm-hmm. Well, the Jewish year is in the 5,000s.
It's like 5,084, something like that.
I can tell you.
I was going to say, it's on our phone. Is it on your phone?
Well, I have my calendar set that way.
It's on my phone right here. 5784.
Yeah. So, according to the Jewish calendar,
it's the year 5784.
Right.
They've got us on, what is this calendar we're on? That's the lunar calendar, is it? Aren't they lunar?
Mm-hmm. They go by the lunar.
And we're solar, whatever.
Yeah, so, right.
So we believe that is backing that these are the things that's describing what happened, not only to Satan, but what happened to this earth between verse 1 and 2 in Genesis.
Right, because it says he destroyed the nations. Mm-hmm. So Isaiah 14:15, yet you shall be brought down to Sheol, the lowest steps of the pit. Those who see you will gaze at you and consider you, saying, is this the man who made the earth tremble, who shook the kingdoms, who made the world as a wilderness and destroyed its cities, who did not open the house of his prisoners?
So he had people in prison. He ruled. He ruled something. We're still proving that there was a world before our time, before our world was created. 2 Peter 3:5-7. For this they will fully forget. And that's true because you never hear anybody talk about it. For this they will fully forget that by the word of God the heavens were of old, and the earth standing out of the water and in the water, by which the world that then existed perished.
Right.
Being flooded with water, but the heavens and the earth, which are now preserved by the same word, it's been preserved.
Right.
By the same word, are reserved for fire until the day of judgment and perdition of ungodly men.
Yeah, because the part that she just read, above that in verse 4, it says, and saying, where is the promise of his coming? For since the fathers fell asleep, all things continue as they were from the beginning. They're talking about from the beginning of creation. For this they willfully forget. So it talks about from the beginning of creation, and the beginning of creation was when he created the heaven and the earth.
Right, that sets from the beginning of creation. That is setting what he's fixing to tell you about.
Right. From the beginning of creation, this is what you're going to forget. That by the word of God, the heavens were of old, and the earth standing out of water and in water, by which the world that then existed perished, being flooded with water.
And that's not Noah.
Right.
Noah's flood was like 2,000 years after man was created. So in the beginning, when heaven and earth, what he's talking about here,
right,
the beginning, and then there's a flood that existed. This world that existed was flooded. So the word darkness comes up in several places in the Bible, and it seems to be related to judgment.
Right.
And so, how does it read in verse 2? No, yeah, 2. Darkness.
The earth was without form and void, and darkness was on the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters.
So darkness represents judgment, which again, we're proving.
Verse 2.
Verse 2.
In the space.
Is there something's happened that's brought judgment. And usually there's judgment waters. You know, the flood is and like in Noah's day, those were judgment waters. And there's
right.
judgment waters there, and there's darkness there. Right. And so in Matthew 27:45, these are just examples of darkness and judgment being together.
Right.
Used together. So Matthew 27:45, this is Jesus on the cross. Now from the 6th hour until the 9th hour, there was darkness all over the land. And so Jesus is on the cross, and a darkness came on the land.
Right.
So that, and you know, he was on the cross
and was being
taking on our curse.
Right. And he was being judged for that.
Judged for what we've done wrong, our sin.
Right.
So then in Matthew 25:30, it says, and cast the unprofitable servant into the outer darkness, there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. So again, there's somebody being judged, and darkness they're being thrown into outer darkness.
Right.
Joel 2:2, a day of darkness and gloominess, a day of clouds and thick darkness. So again, somebody is being judged with this thick darkness.
Psalms 104:6 says, you covered it with the deep as with a garment. The waters stood above the mountains. At your rebuke they fled. At the voice of your thunder they hastened away. They went up over the mountains. They went down into the valleys, to the place which you founded for them. You have set a boundary that they may not pass over, that they may not return to cover the earth. So, in this verse, if you when you're reading about Noah, the waters receded very slowly and went away naturally. So this is not talking about Noah's flood, because Noah's flood, you remember he sent out a bird, and then sent out the dove, and it come back with the olive branch.
Well, if you read Genesis 1:6, I think it talks about. Well, I found that.
Genesis 1:6?
No.
It's going to be in 7, isn't it?
It's Genesis 8:13. It talks about waters were dried up from the earth. So that's a natural receding. It's naturally receding.
Right.
Where over here, God's voice.
Right.
Thunder.
It says, you covered it with the deep as with a garment. The water stood above the mountains, and your rebuke they fled. At the voice of your thunder they hastened away. They went up over the mountains. They went down into the valleys. So the waters running, literally running
Mhm.
away from his thunderous voice. So that is not talking about
This
the Noah flood.
This is the what we call pre-flood, or some say pre-Adamic,
Right.
pre-Adamic, which is
Pre-Adam.
just pre-Adam, basically. So before Adam, which was before our created, the creation that we live in, there was a flood. But
Right.
that Psalms 104:5, which is right before what you read, you who laid the foundations of the earth so that it should not be moved forever. So he's talking about the
Right.
beginning of creation.
Right.
And then it goes into what he did to it. You
Right.
covered it with the deep, as with a garment, the waters stood above the mountains. And it's showing you that there was a creation, there was a judgment, and then he come back, put the earth in order again, which is the 7 days of creation that we live in. And then there was the flood of Noah.
Right. Yes.
So when she read that Psalms 104:6-8, talking about at the voice of your thunder they hastened away, talking about the floodwaters, when he was taking our world from a state of chaos to order so he could create his man to inhabit it, which would be us. In Genesis 1:6, it talks about, then God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the water, and let it divide the waters from the waters. Thus God made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament, and it was so. Then God said, let the waters under the heavens be gathered together into one place, and let the dry land appear, and it was so. So that is what they're describing, what he's talking about in Psalms, is what God did on day, which day was that? Well, it was verse 6. I don't know that I wrote down what day that was, but during the 7 days of creation, the day that he was dividing the waters, that's what Psalms is describing. That he took that judgment water and he started putting some above the firmament, below the firmament, and then causing the land to appear and all that stuff.
Looks like the second day.
So day 2.
Day 2, yeah.
2 Peter 3:10, but the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night, in which the heavens will pass away with a great noise, and the elements will melt with fervent heat. Both the earth and the works that are in it will be burned up. So this is talking about, instead of two, he's had 2 floods, and he's promised that with the rainbow, that's our covenant symbol saying that he'll never do that again. And so he's talking about the next time will be by fire.
Yeah.
And so that's describing what's going to happen. 2 Peter 3:12, nevertheless, we, according to his promise, look for new heaven and a new earth in which righteousness dwells. So after he destroys this sin fallen world by fire after Judgment Day, he will come back and start over, like start from scratch. Before there was a world that fell and he put it back in order, and we came into existence. Now it's going to be burned up, and he's going to literally start from scratch. And it's really interesting the way that reads. There was something here. Then Revelation 21:1, now I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away. Also, there will be no more sea.
I know. I've read that before. That seems odd.
But it's almost like the waters, because before there was no water other than a mist that came out from under the ground.
Right.
And it's almost like the water was only here to cover up. I think things are buried in the earth. I think things are covered by the oceans and the depths. What is it? I've always heard that Satan's throne and kingdom was actually what they call Atlantis.
Yeah, I've heard
And
that, but I don't know how they
I don't
back
know
that.
how they back it. I don't know if that's true, but the lost city of Atlantis, I think they search for it, and supposedly it's linked to the first world that was here.
Yeah.
But I think the judgment waters still lie here to some degree because they're still covering the old world, the remnants of it.
Right.
And I think a lot of the things they find in the earth didn't come from our time. That's why it's kind of off. Mm-hmm. It's like, what is this thing? It's they dig up stuff sometimes, and I'm like, it may be 12,000 years old or however long they say, but that doesn't mean that our recreation, our time.
Right. They find things in the earth that was before our time.
Right, and then they say the Bible doesn't make sense. Well, it does. Our world's only 5,000 years old.
Yeah,
but the earth is a lot older than that, and
right.
a lot of things have been buried in it.
Right.
And so you might find things that they think is extremely old, whether it's billions or just 12,000, 15,000, whatever, I don't know, but it doesn't surprise me when they find things that they think is extremely old, because I believe there was another world here, and I think that there's a remnant still left sometimes. It's preserved.
Yeah.
And it would back the Bible, but they're going to hide anything that even looks toward creation.
Right. Right.
I mean, science will look the other way very quickly if it looks like it backs creation.
Yes, it will. As I say, I don't think that there was billions or millions of years. I just don't believe it was that long. That's a long time. I don't think it was billions or millions.
Mm-mm.
I think it was, thousands maybe, or hundreds. I don't know. But I think the billions and millions, you start getting into worldly science and...
Well, there is... I mean, if you look up some of the things that these philosophers and teachers talk about, they'll say, well, we can't accept that. We can't accept, even though the scientific method, there we go again, the scientific method backs creation on whatever they're doing.
Right.
We can't look there. We can't accept that. And so we have to look for something else, because there's no way that's true. They will throw it out. So, and you can't, and there's plenty of people that couldn't even tell you what they discovered or write about it, because they'll just mark you off as a crazy person that went off the deep end.
Even if
and
it's
refuse
proven.
to even publish. They won't even publish anything that backs creation. They will fight it with everything they've got. Mm-hmm. So, sadly, I believe that there is a true science, but there's a lot of atheists involved that they don't want nothing to do with anything that looks like God.
Right.